5 shocking NFL trades that would impact playoff races in 2023. 1. New England Patriots acquire Wr. Courtland Sutton from Denver Broncos. The Broncos set a steep price for their top 2 receivers. According to 9 News' Mike Cleese. They wanted a first-round pick for Jerry Jeudy or a second-rounder for Sutton in March, which seems to match ESPN NFL insider Dan Graziano's late April report about the team's asking prices. Teams have known for a while the Broncos would consider moving one of their wide receivers, but they've asked for high prices in return for Jerry Jeudy or Courtland Sutton. Teams are watching to see whether Denver drops its demands for those guys, but as of now neither seems likely to get moved. Assuming the Broncos stand pat on the compensation for Jeudy and Sutton but remain open to offers, the latter seems like a more realistic trade option because a second-round pick isn't much for a receiver-needy team in win-now mode. 2. Atlanta Falcons trade for Tennessee Titans QB Ryan Tannehill. If the Falcons acquired Tannehill from the Titans, we shouldn't be completely shocked because of his history with head coach Arthur Smith, who served as his offensive coordinator between 2019 and 2020. On the other hand, the Falcons have backed second-year quarterback Desmond Ridder as the starter with their words and actions this offseason. Before the draft, Smith said the Falcons expect Desmond to take the next step, which is a vote of confidence for the young signal caller who started in 4 games last season. The club passed on quarterback Will Levis to select running back Bijan Robinson with the 8th overall pick. However, Smith and the coaching staff will have an entire training camp program and preseason to evaluate Ridder. If the Falcons' presumed starter comes along slowly in his development, the team may explore other options. Smith could make a call to Tennessee for Tannehill. He probably wouldn't have to pry the soon-to-be 35-year-old from the Titans. With new general manager Ran Carthon calling the shots, Tennessee moved up in the second round of the draft for Levis. 3. Las Vegas Raiders send RB Josh Jacobs to Los Angeles Rams. The Raiders haven't provided much of an update on their contract talks with Jacobs, and the two sides don't seem close to an agreement. A week before the draft, General Manager Dave Ziegler made vague comments about the negotiations. "We'll continue to work through that situation, continue with that process and see where it goes," he said recently. Jacobs posted a cryptic tweet that may have framed his mindset in extension talks with the Raiders as running backs struggle to land lucrative deals on the open market. Keep in mind that the 25-year-old hasn't signed the $10.1 million franchise tag for running backs, but Vegas has until July 17 to strike a multi-year deal with him. The Raiders may choose to pivot from their lead rusher. They selected Zamir White in the 4th round of last year's draft. If the coaching staff thinks the second-year ball carrier can provide 75% of Jacobs' production while under contract for less than $1.1 million, Vegas may place its top running back on the trade block. 4. Tampa Bay Buccaneers swap Wr. Mike Evans for New York Giants RB Saquon Barkley. Following Tom Brady's retirement, quarterbacks Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask will compete for the starting job, regardless of who takes over the offense. The Buccaneers may emphasize the ground attack. When Mayfield helped lead the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs in 2020, arguably his best season, he played with the third-ranked rushing offense that featured Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Trask has only thrown 9 regular season passes. The Buccaneers would likely need to ease his transition into a starting role. Meanwhile, Evans enters the final year of his deal before it voids. He'll turn 30 years old in August. In their current cap situation, the Buccaneers may look toward the future and decide they're not going to pay top dollar for a receiver on the backside of his prime years. Remember, Tampa Bay signed wideout Chris Godwin to a 3-year, $60 million contract last offseason. Instead of allowing Evans to walk in free agency next year, they may be able to trade him for Barkley and a second-round pick. The latter hasn't signed his franchise tender and wants a multi-year contract, but the Giants can deal him in a sign-and-trade scenario. Though the Buccaneers would miss Evans' consistent 1,000-plus yard receiving seasons and his red zone presence, they would acquire a 26-year-old 3-down running back who can immediately improve a rushing offense that recorded the fewest yards in 2022. The Buccaneers would recoup $14.5 million if they trade Evans, which gives them room to sign Barkley on a new deal. 5. Minnesota Vikings trade Danielle Hunter to New Orleans Saints. Minnesota and New Orleans have a playoff history. And Saints defensive end Cameron Jordan may have inflamed the competitive nature between the teams with his recent comments about Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins' decision-making skills. But the two sides can make a deal that's mutually beneficial this offseason. Second-year general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah parted ways with or didn't re-sign multiple veterans, including Dalvin Tomlinson, Darius Smith, Eric Kendricks, and Patrick Peterson. As for Danielle Hunter, his contract voids in 2024. According to NFL Network's Tom Pelissero, the three-time Pro Bowl defensive end hasn't seen eye-to-eye with the team on a new contract. Per NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, teams have inquired about his availability. Adofo-Mensah doesn't have a strong allegiance to roster holdovers from the previous regime. Though Hunter has proved he's worth a big money deal with at least 10.5 sacks in 3 of the last 4 seasons. He may not get a lucrative extension offer from the current Vikings front office. Though this move would hurt the Vikings defense in the short term, the club may continue to move on from veterans close to or older than 30 years old, in this case for an early round pick and a younger player. Hunter will turn 29 years old in October.